So what we're going to do now is make some changes so that when the foot is not locked, so it's not locked in place, we're going to update the position. So that's if it's not locked and it's also not wanting to lock the foot, what we'll do, that means that the foot should be in its swing phase. So whilst it's swinging, for now, what we'll do is we'll just set the foot transform to where the foot actually wants to be based on where the input pose is. So this is the input pose, but when the character actually moves in world space, we're going to set the foot transform to where it would be if we did no change whatsoever. So that means that the foot will keep up with wherever the actor moves to, rather than being locked in world space. Because currently, if we simulate and click on the actor and move it around, you'll see that the actor moves, but the character doesn't, because these are all locked. So what we'll do, if the foot is unlocked or in the swing phase, we simply allow it to keep updating and keep up to date with where the actor should be. So to do that, what we're going to do, if the foot is not locked, and we check to see if we should lock it, and if that's false, we'll come down here. So if we don't want to lock the foot, that means it's in the swing phase and it's happily in the swing phase. We don't need to change that. What we're going to do is set the position of this world final foot transform to where the foot wants to be. So we're just going to drag that in and do get. We're going to do set at to set a value. And the index, we're going to get our local variable, which is foot index. Plug that in. And connect this, for now, just directly from the false branch. And the transform that we're going to set it to, as you can see, it's setting everything to 0, 0, 0 because we've not plugged the transform in. What we're going to do is we'll right click and do get transform. And what we're going to do is get the position of the bone before we make any modification. So to do that, we can just drag in our foot name. If you remember, we created a foot name reference, a local variable at the very start. So we're going to get that foot name and plug that into our get transform bone in the name section. So it's getting the transform of this specific foot that we're on, and we're using that transform and plugging that into our array. So now what you'll see, if we compile and simulate, the character has moved, but it's not in the correct location. And when something like that happens, the most obvious thing to look for is, well, are we using our rig space transforms or world transforms? In this case, this node operates in local space or in rig space, whereas our world foot transforms are being treated as world transform values. So what we need to do is to take it from this local transform and move it into a world transform. So we drag out from this and do to world, and then plug in the output to the element. And now we can compile and save, and you'll see that the character's in the place where it should be. And intermittently, you'll see that it's moving and catching up to the actor location. And that's because all the feet are locking and unlocking at the same time. So they're all locked in place, and then they all jump to being constantly updated to the correct place. Or not necessarily the correct place, but the place where they were trying to be, where the feet were trying to be originally. So what we want to do next to make this more apparent and more visible is instead of them all locking and unlocking at the same time, using our master cycle percent, what we're going to do instead is make each foot have its own cycle percent so that we can offset them slightly, so that some feet will be moving whilst others are locked. So that's what we're going to cover in the next part.